Okay. So what is it? Can I just ask? What is life for you? Look, what is life like for you daily with this chronic illness? How is it? Does it affect you working? Does it?
Yeah. So for me, I had to curate my life very differently. As I said, fatigue will lay you out. Even on your best day, I might be functioning at 50% of a normal person's energy. And that's on a good day, on a day where, for whatever reason, the lupus is playing up, it could wipe out my total energy usage. I mean, I was bedridden. After I got diagnosed, I was bedridden for about 4 years. I had to move back in with my parents. I had a 4-year-old, and it wasn't due to the pain. That came with the rheumatoid arthritis. And thank God, when the lupus kind of took over, pain went. And I have to say, Lord, thank you. As I said to people, give me lupus. Don't give me rheumatoid arthritis. That's a whole different enemy. That's a whole different scenario, pain-wise. But fatigue-wise, it'll wear you out. Because when if you was to, they do something called a body, let me get it right, a basal resting rate. I can't, you know what? Let me not go there. Sorry, the memory goes in and out because right now brain fog is my friend. So basically, if you was to stay in bed 24 hours a day, not do anything, you just basically lay down there and think about life, not very hard, they're going to give you an energy output assessment. And of that energy output assessment, your immune system, just across the board, your immune system is going to take about 40% of your overall energy usage. Yeah. Wow. Just your immune system. And I'm talking just regular, going about your daily business, no illness or anything like that. When it comes to somebody with an autoimmune illness, that's going to get ramped up because your immune system is basically overstimulated and extremely overactive. So with a person like myself with an autoimmune illness, one of the first things that's going to affect me is tiredness or the fatigue. That's going to wipe me out. And as I said, that's on a day-to-day basis because it's like your body is walking when it comes to your immune system usage, if you want to put it that way. In my case, my body is running a marathon. And in a flare-up mode, it is running a marathon, stopping to do sprints, and then running a marathon afterwards. So if you can imagine that, worst case of flu. So the worst case of flu, for anybody out there that don't understand what fatigue is, just imagine the worst case of flu, and I'm talking the one where you can't raise your head off the pillow. And somebody said to you, we've pulled you up out of the bed, we've given you an army backpack, and we've told you, get on with life. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, and that's how it can be for some of us, truly, especially, as I said, if your lupus is not really under control like that. If it's really active, that is the fatigue you've got to deal with, So for me, as I said, I had to I had to curate my life in a way where I had to work out how it worked for me. And thank God I've managed to do that really, really well. But working, that's not something that I could do at that particular time, simply because on top of everything else, yes, you have an overactive immune system. However, you are also much more susceptible to whatever else is going on out the road in the regards to germs and viruses and whatever else have you. So it's a definite double-edged sword, in that respect.
I was going to ask, going to go back. So how was COVID? How did you cope during COVID? Was it stressful around that time?
Do you know what? I absolutely loved it. It sounds so strange to say. I know. It sounded so strange to say. I absolutely loved it. As I said, because I had already curated my life where I know how to maneuver through the daily, it didn't really affect me. In fact, I loved it because there was nobody on the road. So I had the road to myself. It was great.
Yeah.
And
because was COVID an immune? Was it the immune system that was troubling?
COVID was flu. It was just a very horrible, horrible strain of flu. And the reason I say that is because me being me, and I'm an insomniac or a night owl, whichever one you want to put it down to. And I will do research at night because I'm bored. And I remember, again, went back onto the Office of National Statistics, and I kid you not, COVID turned up in April 2020, correct?
Yeah.
Right. If you go onto Office of National Statistics, you will go on there and see there was not a recorded case of the flu until, I want to say, maybe April or May in 2023, when they decided that COVID was no longer the thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was. I just think it was a very strong strain of the flu, and they just turned around and blew it up into something for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, but as I said, for me personally, it wasn't problematic. And I think part of that is the fact that I'm not a fearful person. If you're a fearful person, then what will happen, you know. But I was never that way. So it was what it was. And I took my herbs and I ate well. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't out there in the crowd, but I've never been a person for the crowd anyway, you know. Yeah. So it didn't really matter to me. Honestly, it really didn't. However, other people living with lupus in COVID times, I am very sure that they had to take that into account. As I said, I'm lucky that I'm not in everyday society the way some other people living with lupus are, you know. So, yes.
Now, because I just wanted to touch on that to our listeners, how I met Celena. When I met Celena for the first time, she's always smiling, and she actually had a stall. You know, she used to. Yeah. Well, I know you as a stall holder.
That's right. Yeah.
What drew me to you? You do I keep saying is it shea butter or cocoa butter? That out of all the shea butters when I go out, I love the smell of your one. You know, like I just this has got a beautiful scent, and your packaging, the way you done it. I thought, oh wow, what's going on here?
Right.
But
so
then I looked to. This is something that I wanted to ask you. I looked on your table, and you made a thing called a magnesium spray.
Yes. Yeah.
I know I did buy it because I thought magnesium. So just explain the magnesium spray and. Yeah. Right.
So, okay. So back in 2016, I'd finished uni, was absolutely bored. And I thought, okay, you know what? And not only that, what I realized around that time as well was that my body just doesn't like chemicals. So I was buying, you know, the regular skincare on the road, and I just got to understand that when I used it, my skin would rash up and then my immune system would play about. So I thought, you know what? Okay, I'm bored. Let me go and direct myself into something useful and go and start making my own skincare. And I made the first one. You could take it and use it as a bowling ball. So we had to go back and reformulate. And then I started to create the mango butter-based chillaxations products. And then one day while I was studying, actually, I remember my skin was thin because at that time I was still taking medication, including prednisolone, which is steroids. And my skin was thin because of that. And I remember I went to turn a page and my nails grew like crazy and I scratched my skin. And not being graphic, but I'm wondering, why the hell have I got chalk coming out of my skin? And I thought, hang on a second. Anyway, as I said, me being me, went back and did some Google research and worked it out until I found out it's something called lupus paniculitis with calcinosis. Basically, anywhere that my skin determines is being attacked, once the inflammation leaves, it leaves calcium behind it. And the main reason for that was they were giving me calcium tablets to strengthen my bones. But what the daft people didn't tell me is that if you don't have magnesium or adequate amount of magnesium within your system, the calcium will deposit in your soft tissues, not in your bones. So, again, more research, and we thought, okay, let me try this magnesium spray scenario. And we found some recipes for it, and I thought, okay, let me kind of tweak it to my own because I like doing my own way. And that's how we made the intense magnesium sprays. And After that, my wonderful darling son had the great idea, why don't you turn it into a business? And I'm like, look, really? I can just about lift my head off the pillow sometimes. You'll go about business. But we did.
Yeah.
And that's where you met me doing the vendoring for that. And, you know, when I started to do the research on magnesium, oh, Lord, these people are horrid. That's all I'm going to say. Because adequates of magnesium will correct hypertension. It will correct calcium, beg your pardon. It will correct hypertension. It will correct hypercalcemia, which is basically atherosclerosis. That's a symptom of it. So that's when the calcium deposits sit on the inside of your blood vessels and start to close up. It will correct that because it will funnel the calcium into your bones where it's supposed to go. Without magnesium, you cannot synthesize vitamin D properly. Without magnesium, you cannot move. So your energy molecule is actually attached to a magnesium molecule. If it is not attached to a magnesium molecule, you end up with the fatigue, i.e. the chronic fatigue syndrome as well. So basically, if we had adequate amounts of magnesium, their 4 key bestsellers would go out of remission or out of commission immediately. And their 4 main bestsellers are diabetes medication, pain medication, hypertension medication, and what was the 4th one? This is where the brain shuts off. Pain.
We can come back to that.
Pain medication. There you go. So it's pain. So it's hypertension, pain, high cholesterol, and insomnia medication. That's it. Those are their 4 main bestsellers. And magnesium literally sorts out all of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Celena, right? And then now you've actually started up the Lupus Hub.
Yes.
And you've started it up as a CIC as well, the Community Interest Company.
That's right, yeah.
So tell us a bit and why, well, obviously you started, tell us a bit more about the Lupus Hub now.
So with going back to Chillaxations, it's also a CIC company. And we had gone for some funding. This was back in 2022, I believe. And, the lady that was helping us do the application, she was like, why would you want to get this funding? And we're kind of explaining about the magnesium. And she goes, all right, take me back. Why is that so important? So I explained about my lupus history. And she was like, well, you've just educated me. This is what you need to make your project about. I thought, okay, fair enough. And to be honest, it's weird. That was always kind of where I wanted to go. Not even for myself so much, but in memory of my sister. And we created the Lupus Hub project and it really took off. It was absolutely well received. People loved it. And it was great for us because we gave the voice to 5 wonderful lupus warriors. And that became our documentary called Living with Lupus. And we had it recorded and we did a gala showing of it. Oh, they loved it. It was amazing, And after that, we just continued on. And then it was like, well, we might as well make it into its own entity. And then that's how it became the Lupus Hub CIC. And
okay, so, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So we created that. And what it was for, it was to raise awareness and support the global majority to live well with lupus. Because, as I said before, it's mainly us that is affected. And unfortunately, when it comes to research, it is famously racist and misogynistic, to put it bluntly. Famously. The main research that is done, and I'm talking near enough worldwide, will be for Caucasian males. That is who gets the research done. So this is why, as you said, you heard about lupus, but nobody knows anything about it because it doesn't affect them. They don't promote it. They don't speak about it. They're not interested in understanding enough about it. And because it is supposed to have been not such, it's an illness that is quite relatively rare as far as they're concerned. It's quite relatively rare. So if there's no money in the pharmaceutical world to be gained, then that's another reason why it won't be really investigated. Yeah.
It's excellent. So, where does the Lupus Hub, where do you meet and how do people engage?
Right. So with regards to the Lupus Hub, it's a very weird one, because at the end of the day, the person that is kind of like the front runner of it has lupus. So you can imagine consistency is difficult, very, very difficult. We have a team. However, in the last 2 years, it has been decimated. There has just been one crisis, to put it bluntly, after another, you know. However, we used to have a WhatsApp group. And it was great to be able to reach out and speak to people on a one-to-one. They could contact me, you know, I could go through whatever they're going through with them, help them understand their symptoms. And I just couldn't do it anymore. Honestly, it got too much. It was just a lot. It was very, very draining, to put it very bluntly. And it was heartbreaking, because I know there's people out there that need the support, but I had to then have to understand that I have to learn to work smarter, not harder. And as a result, you know, you could still reach out to me. I will still give out my number freely, happily, but I couldn't do it the way I used to be able to do it. So this is why now, in the last year or so, I decided to become a keynote speaker and a workshop facilitator, you know. And as a result of that, my aim is to reach more people in a less space of time and with less effort for myself. And that's kind of the direction that we've gone into now. However, as I said, even if you are newly diagnosed or you've been living with lupus for a very long time and don't know what you're dealing with, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free. You know, I've just understood that, especially in the last year, burnout visited and it hasn't left, you know, and I've got to be very, very careful in the way that I'm living with lupus now. I've reached a wonderful 5-0 when they gave me the glass ceiling at 25, and it was a blessing to reach there. But yeah, it's a very, very different lupus that I had at 24, 25 or even 45 than it is now at 50. So I've had to change the way I deal with, you know, how the Lupus Hub works.
Yeah. You know, I was just gonna tell the listeners, right? Although I see Celena and I pass by Celena, and I just took it for granted that I haven't got Selena's number, right? So what I had to do, I'm gonna tell the listeners, I have to put my hand up. I remembered Celena runs the Lupus Hub, so I googled Lupus Hub CIC, and on there, she's got her website, which I'm going to ask you to tell everybody, and her telephone number's on there, and the services and whatever, who she is, so you can see the nice, pretty Celena on the Lupus Hub. So, what is the website address?
It is
I can say correctly.
So it's www.lupushub.org. Not .com, because there is a lupushub.com. There's a lupushub.com. But no, we are the lupushub.org. O-R-G. So that's lupushub.org.o-r-g. Right.
Right. We're coming up to the end of our interview, and one of the things I wanted to just ask, and we've got Lady Esi there. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, what was the past events that you've done and what's happening in the future?
Oh, goodness. We had some beautiful past events. So we've had our gala screening. That was back in 2023. We roughly do events around October, because that is Lupus Awareness Month along with Black History Month. So last Lupus Awareness Month, we did, oh my goodness me, what was it called? We did an event over the Frederick Night.
Centre.
In Willoughby Lane. And that one was just about, celebrating people living with lupus and emphasizing self-care and holistic care, because that's what we're about. Don't get me wrong, there are people out there that, speak about, we need to raise the money for the cure. I'm all for that. However, there are people living with lupus now, and raising the awareness and creating the inclusivity was more what we were interested in doing. The education and the support, but mostly encouraging inclusivity, because at the end of the day, a person living with lupus that is highly sun sensitive is going to be in the house 24/7 easily. A day like this, when everybody else with a chronic illness might be outside basking in the sun and feeling better for it, we can't do that. We don't like the cold. Our body doesn't like the cold. It doesn't like the hot. It might be okay with the dry. It don't like the damp, and it can be such a very isolating illness because of that. So when we do our events, that's what it's for. It's specifically for people living with lupus, and especially those that, are of the global majority, because again, unfortunately, they do have lupus charities, but they weren't really designed for us or by us, to put it bluntly, and this is why I created the Lupus Hub. So we've had past events like that. We've had coffee mornings. We've had, I think this year I did a mind mapping session, self-care sessions and things like that, which was really well received. We were funded again by the National Lottery to host a series of events, and we call these the Live Well Regardless event, and we've had 2 so far, and they've been really, really great. And the last one will be on Friday the 5th of June, and that will be from 1 till 6, and that again is at the Chestnuts Community Centre, which is 280 St Anne's Road, N15 5B for Bertie and N for November. And this one is particularly focused on men's health, well-being and finances. And what we really want to do is emphasize resilience and community. Again, 1 out of 10 persons diagnosed with lupus will be a man. And even myself, with my learned self, I believe that men didn't really get such harsh symptoms as the ladies do. I'm absolutely wrong. In fact, men are more likely to have kidney issues, which then has a knock-on effect. So it is quite devastating. And again, doing what I'm doing, you kind of get people kind of focused. Oh, you're the lupus lady. Oh, there's so-and-so that lives at so-and-so and he's got lupus. So I've kind of touch base with maybe 4 or 5 men that live in the local area with lupus, and so this event, as I said, it's mainly to drag the men out of their houses, because as I was saying to our team, it's scary. I don't do the whole social media influencer palaver, but when you hear, so-and-so was on live last night laughing and joking and they found him deceased by his own hand the next day, you're like, sorry? And with the cost of living crisis that they've got us in at this present moment, men are beyond stressed, and a lot of people broke up relationships within COVID. So there are a lot of men living solo, and it's not always a good thing, So yeah, this third event is mainly about bringing the men out on the day, So yeah, on the day is for, anybody living with a chronic condition, including lupus, diabetes, sickle cell, cancer, hypertension, any other autoimmune illnesses. And it's just so that they can connect and learn and be heard. It's really important that, they feel part of the community.